welcome to Football Now, a new YouTube channel previewing all the Premier League games of the season, looking at the odds for the respective matches and talking through our predictions. Joined by Connor. First of all, Connor, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm not too bad. I'm ready to try and make a few quid over the weekend, but let's see. International break just happened. It's always a bit dodgy, but see what we can find.
Yeah, I won't talk about my recent betting form. I think it's best we leave that out of the conversation. First up, we've got Wolves versus Liverpool at Molineux. Liverpool heading to Wolves off the back of a good start to the season. Wolves not enjoyed the fastest start. Can you talk us through the betting odds first of all?
Yeah, well, I mean, I should expect Liverpool, going off favourite. Should probably get about 4-9 from them is what I'm looking at. Liverpool got a pretty good record at Molineux. If you look at the past 5 games, they've won 4 of those. And I think Liverpool's start to the season is a little bit difficult to judge because I don't think they were very good against Newcastle. It was sort of a hit and a smash and grab, really. Newcastle were controlling the game even before Virgil van Dijk's red card. And Nunez comes on and absolutely changes the game. Last time at Aston Villa 3-0. So they've done quite well without being spectacular. Saudi Arabia transfer window is closed now, so all the Mo Salah talk, will he, won't he, can go. So they can just focus on the football. Wolves, I think, are really going to struggle. I think really probably ever since the injury to Jimenez a few years ago, they've really struggled in front of goal. Liverpool's got really good defensive record in the league. So I think 4-9 for Liverpool is pretty decent value, but away from home, you don't know after the international break as well. You can get 4-1 on the draw, and I think I may be looking towards that.
Yeah, I think in the last game that these two played at Molineux, Wolves took Liverpool apart 3-0. It was around that period last season where Liverpool really did seem to crumble. But like you say, if you look at the last 5 fixtures at Anfield and at Molineux between the two, Liverpool have enjoyed their fair share of the spoils. Like you said, they've made a good start, 10-12 from the opening 4 games. With Liverpool, like I said, it is hard to judge because you just don't know what to expect from that midfield. Yeah. McAllister and Szoboszlai have hit the ground running, but there is that gaping hole still at 6. They brought in Gravenberch. You don't know whether he's going to fit into that position straight away, which I guess remains to be seen. But Wolves as well.
They brought in Endo, but I think the midfield is interesting because I think it is the one position where you do have to get right. And with Liverpool, they sort of had to rebuild it in about 2 weeks because they tried to get Caicedo. That didn't happen. They tried to get Lavia. That didn't happen. So they brought in Gravenberch and they brought in Endo right at the end of the season, the end of the transfer window. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, Gravenberch has stayed at Liverpool throughout the international break, which Ronald Koeman wasn't very happy about that. But I think that would help him. But yeah, like you said, that midfield, it's all about that midfield. How is that going to hold up?
The Endo signing is quite a peculiar one, isn't it? I think because as a Liverpool fan, it came out of nowhere. I don't think too many were aware of him. Those who didn't watch the Bundesliga anyway. It did seem as though even when we signed him, you didn't get the feeling that he was going to be the number one in that position. It almost felt like he was going to be someone that we brought in for the cup games in the Europa League. So
yeah, I think it was a bit of a panic buy. I mean, it's astounding to me that a club the size of Liverpool would let Jordan Henderson go and Fabinho go without replacing him. Now, whether you're sure or not that you can bring in Lavia or Caicedo, until those guys are through the door, you don't let them go. I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan, and we had a deal agreed for Xhaka way in advance, but until Rice was over the line, we didn't let him go. So I think Liverpool have done well to bring in Endo and Gravenberch, considering how late it was. But like you said, Endo, I think, I don't want to judge him too harshly, but like you said, it was a bit of an out of the blue signing.
Yeah, I think the whole summer was very un-Liverpool-like under Klopp. They've been very astute in the past. There seems to be a lot of foreplanning, but it almost seemed as though we were making it up as we went along. Like you said, we let Fabinho and Henderson go to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, okay, we got good money for them, I suppose, for the stage of their career they're at. But we were then scrabbling to try and get someone in to replace them. Endo, like you said there, and Gravenberch, I haven't seen a lot of him, I'll admit, but from what I'm hearing, he isn't a natural 6, so I'm not sure how he's going to slot in.
I mean, I remember at the start of the season, that first game against Chelsea, you got Cody Gakpo in the midfield because you just did not have the numbers. And that was a strange game. I thought Liverpool almost could have run away with it. Nearly went 2-0 up. Then it was ruled offside, and then Chelsea from that moment on. But again, that's what not having a midfield can do.
Yeah, the second half of that game, Chelsea were I think they were unlucky not to get away with the win, but they have rebounded since with 3 good victories of their own. Liverpool, Bournemouth at home, Newcastle away, like you said, 2 late goals from Nunes, almost pinching out from under Newcastle's noses after we played the majority of the game with 10 men. And then Villa last time out, I think it was a strange performance from Villa, strange approach from Emery, which I'm sure we'll talk about when we talk about their game against Crystal Palace. But I think Liverpool fans would have taken 10 points from the opening 12, especially given the negativity around the summer. There's still a lot of talk among the fans about whether FSG are the right owners to take the club forward or take the club onto that next step.
Do you think Wolves could take something from this game? Because I really worry about them going forward. I feel like I've been saying that for about 18 months. But I mean, they beat Everton, which I don't want to insult Everton fans, but it's hardly anything to write home about. But they've lost every other game. I mean, they were unlucky against United in the opening game of the season because not only did they lose 1-0 and really should have had a penalty, ridiculous decision, but I mean, they battered Man United. And I'll say the word, they absolutely battered Man United. They were the better team, but they couldn't put the ball in the back of the net.
That's the trouble. You do look at the squad, don't you, and think, where are the goals coming from? The games that they have lost this season away to United, like you said there, one of the most ridiculous decisions I think anyone's ever seen in the Premier League from the VAR. Brighton away, there's no shame in losing to Brighton away at the moment form they're on. And Palace away, Palace is never the easiest place to go. You mentioned them going forward there. They've just re-signed or made a permanent deal with Matheus Cunha from Atletico Madrid. I think he got his first goal of the season against Palace last time out. Is he the man to take them forward to get the goals? I'm looking at a list of their squad now, and like you said, I'm not too sure where the goals come from.
I think with Wolves, I think a lot of teams can suffer after the international break, especially if a lot of players do go away. But I think it might have helped Wolves because they lost Lopetegui right before the start of the Premier League season. So for him to have that international break, just to really settle down and really think things through, because he was sort of thrown into the deep end after Lopetegui left. So be an interesting one. But if Wolves can just start scoring a few more goals, then they could have a good season because last year they struggled to stay in the Premier League, but they got there. But they've really got to kick on this season.
I'm just looking at the injuries now for both sides. I don't think there are too many at Liverpool. Thiago is currently being assessed. It says there's a 25% chance of recovery. I think he's expected to return at the end of this month. Van Dijk's obviously suspended, so you assume Gomez and Matip will be starting at centre-back again. Konate also injured, and there's a slight knock to Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, which kept him out of the international break, but he's expected. I don't think it's too serious, so he should be back, whether it's this weekend or next weekend. And for Wolves, Joseph Hodge is ruled out with a thigh injury with no return date, so I don't think either side is particularly hampered by injuries. What's your prediction if you had to?
Again, it's hard after the international break. I think with Liverpool missing Virgil van Dijk, I think that's going to be a big miss. We expect Alexander-Arnold to play, but you never know. I think Wolves will get something. I think I'm looking at 4-1 as a draw, and I'm drawn to that more than anything. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to say 1-1 draw. I'm going to say Wolves to score first, Liverpool to peg one back in the second half. But 4-1, I think the draw is a good value there.
Before I give my prediction, one thing we haven't mentioned actually is the large influx of players that Wolves have lost over the summer. Experienced heads as well. We've seen Ruben Neves go to Saudi Arabia, João Moutinho go. Jimenez, I don't think he's been the same player, like you say, since the injury, but he's moved off. Adama Traore, the same. They have brought in a few midfielders themselves. Mario Lemina, I think, was he? No, Boubacar Traore, was brought in the summer. A young player expected to slot in that central midfield now with the places that were vacated by the likes of Moutinho and Neves. Have we seen much of him? Would you expect from that Wolves midfield now that they have lost the experienced heads?
I think it's hard to say. Again, I think the problem is, and it comes back to, I think the midfield is the most important position on the pitch. I think it all depends how this new manager wants to go moving forward. Um, I know if you lose a lot of players in the summer, it can hurt. But I think Wolves needed a change. I think it's been quite stale now for quite a few years. They really struggled last season, so I think actually having that refreshment, I think it can hinder you. Like we'll talk about that later, I'm sure, with Chelsea. But I think in Wolves' case, I think something had to change, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I think you said that you're edging towards the draw there. I'm a Liverpool fan. I've got to back the away win.
You have to, don't you?
I'll say I'll go for 3-1. Like you said, with Van Dijk out, I can see us maybe conceding. But with the start we've made, I can't complain, especially after the summer and our edge towards a 3-1. Let us know what your predictions are. Down in the comments. Catch us in the description and above. I think in the top right-hand corner, we'll put a link to the next game, which is Aston Villa and Crystal Palace.
Yeah, and if you back the 4-1, I want 10% of it.
Right.